following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Let's go, baby.
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break.
With Nick Eatman, David Hellman, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Tuesday, October 15th, 2019, season 15, episode number 64. Welcome to another edition of The Break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, and it is a Tuesday, so we're going big picture today. I've got a ton of questions for these guys. We're going to hit a lot of different topics, and hopefully we'll get to some questions from you guys. You can call us. The number is 888-855-2297. You can also hit us on Twitter at Derek Eagleton. I'll take your questions that way. And again, we just want to give you guys a big picture look at this team coming off another loss, now at 3-3, facing a probably the biggest division threat that they have this week, and then heading into a bye. So very, 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 very critical game. We'll get into a little bit more about that game tomorrow and Thursday. But it's a big picture today. How's everybody feeling?
Good.
Feel good. Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's jump right in. I have probably about 7 or 8 questions here. They're going to be on a range of different topics. Obviously, a lot of them have to do with problems because right now when you go 3-3 and you've lost the last 3 in a row, there are lots of problems. So let's start first with this question. What has been the biggest or the bigger offensive problem? Wide receivers not getting open or dropping the ball, or offensive line not blocking well?
I mean, I would say offensive line not blocking well because, and there's reasons for that. We know that. You don't have to sit there and talk about that. But yeah, I would say the offensive line has been a struggle, whether or not they're 100% healthy or the guys that are healthy are not blocking well. I would say that.
And I think that stems, too, if you can't create the gaps for Elliott or even Pollard, whoever's in, then you start going to the receivers. I mean, it's a problem in and of itself since they can't catch. But I'd agree. I think the offensive line has not been what it needs to be. And we've talked for how many weeks about the drop-off between your starting tackles who are out, Tyron Smith and Lyle Collins, with Brandon Iden, Cam Fleming. However, that can't just be an excuse. Every team you have to have depth, and you have to learn to adjust, and something's not working.
To Nick's point, and I think Derek brought it up yesterday, and obviously the problem with the tackles being healthy, but the interior hasn't played well. Connor Williams has had his growing pains throughout the season. Travis Frederick and Zach Martin. I think the Jets game is the second game this season where they didn't seem like they played a very good game, the Saints game being the other one. I mean, we all know Zach is dealing with a back injury of his own, but, to quote DeMarcus Lawrence, nobody cares. But yeah, they haven't played up to that standard. I think they did for those first 3 games, which, look at the competition and that might help explain it.
At this point, based upon what you've seen, would you move forward with putting Xavier Su'a-Filo in place of Connor Williams?
Well, I mean, I think that you were not on the show last week or 2 weeks ago when I said that. So
I missed a show?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
part of a show.
Yeah, part of a show.
Nick did say that.
I feel like I've said that a lot. So
you're all in on that?
I'm all in. I'm all in because I just feel like he is a stronger player, physically stronger to do that. And last time they put him in against the Eagles, I mean, he kind of handled Fletcher Cox as well as you can. So I think that it would be good, especially with the situations that they have on the outside and all that. I think he's a good veteran player, and I think it would be needed.
Just trying to go off of previous years when things weren't going well. I think if they were going to do that, they'd do it during the bye week if Connor Williams struggles again in this game, and he might with Fletcher Cox being on that defensive line.
What would you do, though?
That's what they did, right? That's what they did.
That's what they did last year.
Redskin game, he was not good. Connor Williams, and then bye week.
Yeah,
no,
well, they fired Paul Alexander and kind of switched things up, and I don't know that Connor didn't get benched; he got hurt.
That's right,
and then just didn't get his job back immediately.
They've made personnel moves during the bye week like that before. I mean, you can go all the way back to 2015 when they benched Brandon Weeden for Castle, etc. What would I do?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not an offensive line expert by any means. That it feels convenient to be like, well, that's the problem, and that'll fix it.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not pouring everything onto Connor. There's a lot of problems on this team, and particularly on the offensive line. But my point, though, is I guess what I'm asking you is his play. If you just take his play by itself, knowing that you have another guy like Xavier Su'a-Filo who you've seen play and you feel like he's a pretty good player, do you think there's an upgrade in moving Xavier into the starting lineup over Connor?
I know he did play well against the Eagles, but he played several games last year and they weren't all beautiful. Like, if he was like this Pro Bowler sitting back there, maybe I'd feel differently. But no, I think I'll roll forward with it, and hopefully you get Tyron back for this game, or you certainly expect you would get him back after the bye week. And yeah, I don't feel super strongly about that.
Danny,
that was kind of my thought. I was wondering if you get Tyron back, is this as much of a discussion as people are thinking about? Right? Are we just more focusing? You're seeing Connor Williams, and you're expecting him to step up more since Tyron is out. I don't know. I guess maybe, he's obviously, Su'a-Filo is like practicing, but maybe you do try him more in the, those first team reps.
I just think that what you saw from, the third and short, fourth and short, I just feel like that he gives you a little bit more. He gives you a lot more strength up there. Because remember, Connor was a tackle that's moved to guard. I don't think Su'a-Filo's ever been anything more than an interior player. So, I know it wasn't perfect last year, but he just happened to be in the starting lineup for that last run of 7 out of 8 games, and Cooper was probably the bigger reason for the offensive turnaround. But I think he helped. I do think he helped in there, and I get it. It seems like you're just picking on one guy to be like, well, you're the problem, But when you look at across the board guys that aren't playing well, and then who's behind them, drop off between Dak and Cooper. I'm not saying that that's the problem, but I'm just saying drop offs between the backup and that. I think that's the closest one on the entire team, because Su'a-Filo, basically didn't give him his job back last year. So Connor Su'a-Filo, I think, is the closest backup to the starter on any spot on the team.
From that standpoint, is it fair to at least ask the question about the center and whether your backup can give you maybe more than what you're getting from Travis Frederick? I'm talking about Joe Lee.
Yeah, it's fair. That's fair, but I'm going to say, like Dave said, I'm not an offensive line expert on that one.
That is, I think,
that's
in terms of like watching. We have access to NFL Game Pass. You can go watch the All 22. You can get an idea of what's going on. It's very hard to evaluate that if you haven't played it or coached it, or Broadus has a lot of leeway to speak on that with not just his scouting experience, but his experience playing offensive line. You can do your best to he got beat, but you don't know the protections. You don't know what each guy's assignment is. And Connor, and I said at the top of the show, I don't think Zach and Travis played very well in that game, but I'm not ready to say like that is this just like blinking red light about why they're losing these games and they've got to do something drastic. I'm just not all the way there. I think honestly, I'd rather they just stop trying to run into unfavorable looks. Like, how about they do that instead?
I don't think we realized the importance of the Amari Cooper injury in that game. They lost the game. I don't think they lose the game if Cooper is not hurt, and I don't think it's really that close. To be honest with you.
Well, then let's. Okay, go ahead.
I just think Amari Cooper being out for that particular game, I think, was a 14 to 17 point difference. That they probably win the game by 2 touchdowns. I believe that.
Okay, so let's take this. This is your next question. You set this up perfectly.
There you go.
Which player is more critical to the Cowboys' offensive success, Amari Cooper or Tyron Smith?
Honestly, the answer has been Tyron for years, and I feel stupid saying it's probably Amari Cooper, but I think it probably is, because
who backed him up? 11?
You wind up trying to make it work with Michael Gallup, Cedric Wilson, and Tavon Austin. Tavon Austin was playing outside for a pretty big chunk of that game.
And we saw the difference there. He can make some plays if he gets lined up right. And that's not really a knock on him. He's not really that type of guy. He's an inside guy. Those guys make mistakes when they're out there that they're not lining up on the right spot. Cost them a big play in the game. I think when you're talking about drop-offs between the starter and the backup, I think Amari Cooper to Cedric Wilson is a bigger drop-off than Tyron Smith to Cam Fleming, as weird as that sounds.
I'll go to my grave and insist, like, the offensive tackle play is not why they lost to the Packers or the Jets. I'm not saying those guys played great. I mean, there was a big dispute on Talking Cowboys yesterday about Dak getting hit. Like, Dak took a lot of those shots extending plays outside of the pocket. Like, it's not like he just had...
Two in particular, two of the biggest hits happened outside the pocket, yeah.
It's not like he had no time to throw and there were just guys... I mean, you go watch Atlanta 2017 if you want to see what that looks like. I don't think this was that. Well, and again, sorry, but... Yeah. You saw the Jets do it all day. Like, get the ball out of his hand faster. Help your tackles. I don't like, the old do what we do thing. Like, I think the Cowboys could be better at adjusting their play calls to suit who's on the field for them. But... Yeah. I think the drop-off in the passing game is pretty severe without Amari Cooper. And especially, I mean, Michael Gallup, and, I got to give Amber credit. She called out the receivers last week. I didn't think it was justified based on what we had seen to that point, but it was an ironic twist of fate that the first time Gallup was called upon to be more without Cooper in there, he wasn't up to it. And that only kind of highlighted the problem. So... If you told me I could have one of the two for this game, I think I'd rather have Cooper than Tyron.
Me too.
Yeah.
You agree, Danny?
Yeah, I agree. And I think we've seen that. I mean, last year without Cooper, and you get so excited, and we see such great things from Gallup. And he even said, he's like, it's on me. He's in locker room yesterday. He goes, I had 3 passes I should have had. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what you do differently. He didn't really have an answer in terms of how you execute better, but there is a big drop-off, and he's the guy, and he did not perform. And Cedric Wilson did not step up the way he needed to. We saw some good plays from Tavon, but there just wasn't enough out wide.
And if we're going to talk about the injuries, I think that if you had to tell me, make a bet on which player is going to be able to play in the game, I would say Tyron Smith over Amari Cooper. Doesn't look like Amari's going to play. And I'm basing that off of the fact that he had no shot of coming back in that game. Like, he wasn't trying. He was just sitting there. I know he was in a lot of pain, but he was just sitting there. It wasn't close to coming back. I just have a hard time thinking that he's going to be able to be back for this game. Yeah. With the bye week sitting there.
It doesn't. I don't feel good about it on Tuesday.
But real quick about that, we've seen this for years. Well, the bye week's there. It's so much easier to just rest the guy one more game and knowing that it's there. Man, they cannot do that. If these guys are healthy to play, they got to play. This is the biggest game of the year.
I will say this. I think a lot of their problems offensively originate on the offensive line. I think a lot of the things we've seen, particularly in the last 3 games, have been issues that start at the offensive line. Other guys have their hand in it, but I think it starts with the offensive line. The problem is, and goes to what you guys are saying here, last year, the Cowboys were not doing very well until they got Amari Cooper, and then everything changed. Essentially, if you don't have Amari Cooper in this offense, you're going back to that. This wide receiver by committee, that's proven not to work.
That's a problem.
With the current set of players, I just don't think it's there yet.
They looked a lot better in this game against the Jets than they did during those lean games before Cooper got here.
I differ. I disagree with that. I think offensively, particularly in the first half, like they were having a hard time getting any kind of rhythm going. It was because they didn't have reliable catches. Like there were opportunities there, but they didn't have anybody stepping up to make the plays.
Don't get me wrong; they obviously didn't play well, but like it's a testament to how atrocious they were against Carolina and Seattle early last season. Like that looked better than what we saw in 2018.
And I think both those teams probably, I would guess, were a little bit better last year than what the Jets are this year.
I would posit, and I mean, based on what we've seen, I don't expect the Cowboys to take advantage of it based on what we've seen the last 3 weeks, but the Eagles might have the worst secondary in the league, and we can get into that.
We'll see if the Cowboys can take advantage of that. Let's take our first break. When we come back, have some more questions. We'll talk big picture Cowboys. We'll be back when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
While a player could look good on paper, it's when he's out on the field that you really find out what he's made of. That's why the Cowboys rely on more than just stats and scouting reports when building their team. When picking a tractor, it's why you should rely on more than just specs and features. You've got to take it out and put it to the test. The Cowboys did when they named John Deere their official tractor. Experience one for yourself. Visit myjohndeeredealer.com/football.
Do you want the most interesting, up-to-the-minute Dallas Cowboys news straight from the Star in Frisco? How about exclusive and on command? That's right, news and nuggets you can't find anywhere else. With our exclusive Cowboys content on Alexa, you can have all the answers, secrets, stories, and more. What's Stephen Jones thinking during a game? What's Joe Looney's favorite pregame meal? We take your questions to Cowboys players and coaches, and you can hear the answers directly back to you. Just say, Alexa, open Dallas Cowboys.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
The excitement of Dallas Cowboys football is back at AT&T Stadium.
The place is going crazy in Arlington, Texas.
Don't miss your chance to see the Cowboys live when they host their NFC East rivals, the Eagles, Giants, and Redskins, plus the Green Bay Packers and more.
Elliott works his way through and walks the dog.
Single game tickets are on sale now. Get them before they're gone.
First and goal, quarterback sneak. Prescott pushes up the middle. Touchdown.
Visit DallasCowboys.com to get your tickets today.
Back to the break.
Back, second segment of the show, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Nick, what you got for us?
Well, I do have a watch party that the Cowboys have already scheduled here for November the 24th. It's on a Sunday. It's in a festive game day atmosphere at the Tostitos Championship Plaza at the Star in Frisco. So the Cowboys will take on the New England Patriots. Danny, I know you were out there before.
I was for the Washington game. It's a ton of fun, and there were a lot of people there, and it was hot. So I think this one will be a nice turnout as well, a little cooler weather.
Cooler weather, November 24th, Cowboys, Patriots. Admission and parking free at visit thestarinfrisco.com. Should be a lot of fun to watch the Cowboys take on the Patriots.
All right, let's get back in. We got some questions. We got some other teams to get to before we get to the Patriots, too. Jeez.
Yeah.
That's the watch party.
I know. I'm just saying, like, as you said that, I was like, oh, that's just one more problem that's just lingering out there. That'll be a problem we deal with later. All right, so let's go back. I got another question for you guys. This next question is, what has been the bigger defensive problem for this team? Pass rush, coverage, or run defense?
Golly.
The fact that there's been a 7-second pause tells you that everyone's thinking. Yeah, it's all of them, and then they all kind of work.
You got to pick one
together.
I'm gonna say tackling.
Because if you had to fix one, which one do you think gives you the better chance to fix the others?
Pass rush.
Pass rush to me gives you can. I mean, if you get after his ass back there, then you can do a lot of things. Your coverage looks a lot better,
even more than run defense.
Honestly, has their coverage? With the exception of this past game, like in the other 5, was their coverage awful? I would say the last 2.
I would say in the last 2, they've probably had some issues in coverage. I mean, Green Bay, they scored a lot of points, and some of that. I mean, you're right. They didn't get just destroyed. I've just seen some,
Rodgers finished with 238 and needed 3 or 4 really Rodgers-esque throws to make it happen.
And you know what?
I said it after that game. I was like, that's going to happen when you play him. Ask the freaking Lions about that. I mean, did you see him last night?
Yeah, one of the reasons why I probably have a weird opinion about the secondary with regards to the Packers game is because their tackling was also a part of the problem.
Yes.
And so I think I'm kind of equating that just to the secondary in general. But you're right. From a pass defense standpoint, that wasn't the issue of that game for the most part.
Cheeto had a rough first half against Devontae Parker against the Dolphins, but in general, it has not been a week-to-week thing where I'm like, man, this
But Cheeto hasn't played up I don't think Cheeto has played up to expectations as far as I'm concerned.
Nobody
Not
on
even
defense.
close.
Robert Quinn is the only guy who's maybe Malik Collins who's fitting that bill.
I don't think the run defense has been to the point where it's the biggest problem. Yeah, the Packers, they got after him, Aaron Jones, but I still think a lot of that had to do with how they were trying to try to get Aaron Rodgers, and the Packers have a great offensive line, and they caught him and they gashed him, and with a big lead like that, they were able to keep running the ball. But I think for the most part, going up against Kamara, going up against Le'Veon Bell, I think the run defense has been okay. I think the biggest problem is the pass rush. They're just not getting there at all.
The pass rush. I don't think the run defense has been that good. All things across.
All bad or all good?
No, all that good.
Okay,
I mean,
got it.
Saquon did his thing. They were really good against Kamara. Saquon did his thing. The Jet, well, what? No, I don't know. They haven't been that good. The pass rush. I'm the guy that sits here every week and defends DeMarcus Lawrence, and I don't think he deserves as much criticism as he's gotten. But man, all through training camp, you're talking about Lawrence, you're talking about Quinn, you're talking about Malik, and we went on and on about how the guys that they cut off of this defensive line were going to be better than the guys playing on a lot of other teams, and it hasn't looked that way.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that same thought. I was like, I've been sitting here saying Quinn, he doesn't need all this criticism. He's being double teamed, but at some point.
You mean Lawrence?
Lawrence, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
No, you're fine.
And so, but at this point, we're 6 games in. You have to find a way to start adjusting to that and finding a way to get things done.
They've missed a healthy Tyrone Crawford. I mean, he's not healthy, but they've missed that, And I think that him out there, he's one of those players, and I know the fans don't really think he's all that good, but the fact he is. I mean, maybe his contract's really it used to be a really big contract. Now it's probably
it's not even that crazy anymore.
But the fact that he provides pass rush and run stopping ability from the defensive end position is I think an underrated part of his game. It really is, and him not being healthy for these last he's missed some games, and then he's been back for 2 and hasn't really been very impactful. I'm telling you though. I mean, I think you're talking about calls that were missed. I mean, that I talked to him yesterday. One of the biggest calls that refs missed in that game was the fact that he got punched in the back of the head on a third down, or from the goal line. That would have really been a big play in the game. It's funny that guy must have not seen that video on Deadspin, because punching Tyrone Crawford in the head like that's not really the smart move, but whatever, worked out
for him for that time.
He got me right in the middle of everybody. Yeah. I mean, I saw it, I said it to you, and
then I saw it on the replay. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I will say, which I guess the way you worded the question doesn't afford me to give this answer, but even having just said what I said about the pass rush, like if you could pick anything to be disappointed about in terms of preseason expectations, and right now, it's probably the play of Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith.
Well, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
I got a question for you on that. I got a question for you on that. All right, let's go to this next question, though. This may take the rest of the show, so feel free to go as long as you want on this. So far, how does Kellen Moore's offense compare to Scott Linehan's? Better, worse, the same?
Which game are we talking about?
We're talking about the season as a whole.
All of them?
Yeah, pull it all together.
It's still better.
It's better.
It's still better.
Wasn't it number 1 in the league going into this game?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it still probably is, because again, like they put up 400 yards of offense in this game.
Yeah, I think it's.
And that goes back to my point. Is like, throw on the tape of the first Seattle game last year or the season opener against Carolina if you need a refresher of just how bad it was. Because I promise.
Hold on now. But,
go ahead.
Amari Cooper. I mean, like, the thing about it is we talked about Amari Cooper being so much, helping this offense so much. I mean, I think you have to look at the last 8 games for Scott Linehan in the first, let's say 8 games. When he gets 8 games, and then kind of look at it. I think it's closer to the same. I like this offense better, though. I think just because I think he's got a better quarterback than he had last year. I mean, I think Dak is just improving to the point I think he's better. I think he's getting a little bit more production out of the tight end spot this year, because Witten's not what he was, but he's still out there. He's still making some plays, and I just think they're a little bit better, but. The red zone numbers. What is the red zone?
It's been cut in half since the losing streak started. Like, they were insane in the red zone the first 3 weeks. It's honestly, which
it's a good question.
I'm still annoyed by the whole Garrett's telling Kellen Moore what to do thing, and we kind of talked about that yesterday. There's no way to know that, and it cropped up after the Saints game. It wasn't really talked about last week, or the Packers week, because the game got out of hand. But, like, I don't know, how different has it looked to you in let's just say Jets and Saints? Like, how different has it looked to you from what they were trying to do? Because, like, all the fun stuff we saw in the first 3 weeks has felt lacking.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder if some of that is because the games got away from them. I wonder if some of that is against lesser opponents, maybe they feel freer to try different things than against really good teams that they feel like, hey, every possession matters, so we got to be more conservative. I don't know what it is, but you're right. It feels, to me at least, it feels like the way that they call the first 3 games is different than the way they call the last 3.
I want to point this out too. I hear this a lot about, the score, was kind of, they were behind the 8 ball there. The game got away from them, whatever. They're getting down 17. You had to change. Just remember that one of the reasons why the game got away from them, any team, is because of the offense. I think we forget that a lot. It's like, well, they got down by 17. They got down to 17 because you didn't do anything in the first quarter So the Packer game got away from them because they couldn't do anything. They were, I understand why things changed, but the first part of the game and some of the Jets, Cowboys, they're the reason why the game is getting away from them.
I agree with you in general principle. I think in this game it was a bit different because the decisions they made before the game, particularly with the wide receiver position and who was active and inactive, that became apparent very quickly because Amari goes out quick. And now, as they talked about after the game, now they're running 12 personnel a lot more than they probably would have gone into that game expecting they would.
Yeah.
And that does change things. When you now have 2 tight ends on the field as opposed to 3 wide receivers, that drastically changes what you're going to do with your offense. So I would agree with you generally. Yes, that's the case. But I think it changed so much with Amari going out this game. I think it really left them in a really bad situation.
For the record, Jason Garrett said yesterday that they weren't anticipating that was something that they were going to have to deal with. Like they didn't put.
He's talking about his injury.
Yeah,
Amari's injury.
They didn't put Devin Smith down thinking that Amari Cooper might only get a handful of plays.
And I would suspect if they would have known that, they would have done something completely different, but they didn't, right?
That's a good point. I mean, and they ran a crazy amount of 12 personnel, but I mean, Amari Cooper, 17 runs on first down out of 24 opportunities.
Yeah,
bothers me. All
right, we're going to take our final break. We're going to come back, and I'm going to ask this question to our panel. Should Sean Lee or Joe Thomas be starting over Jalen Smith and or Leighton Vander Esch? We'll talk about that when we come back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Your new apartment's big. Such a great deal.
It's okay.
Just okay? What's not to...
Right above the subway!
Well, I bet you don't even notice it after the...
That's my neighbor, Angus!
A deal that's just okay is not okay. Get a great deal with America's Best Network. Come into an AT&T store and learn how to buy one smartphone and get a second one on us. Based on GWS 1 score, September 2018.
It's time for Tailgate with the OtterBox boys.
OtterBox? The makers of those crazy protective phone cases?
The one and only. They're also wild about protecting parking lot parties from sad drinks. It's why they made elevation tumblers.
Rumor around the crockpot is they're made from stainless steel with a copper lining to keep temps hot or cold.
True. They even come in 7 different sizes, up to 64 ounce, the growler.
I like how OtterBox drinks. Thanks.
And that's been Tailgating with the OtterBox boys. Check out all the colors and sizes of their elevation tumblers at otterbox.com.
A man's Stetson doesn't just protect him from life's elements. It projects an unstoppable and legendary spirit, just like the men wearing silver and navy on the field every Sunday. Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. They are still the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find Stetson hats in the Pro Shop or at Stetson.com today.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with sideline access and photo ops with current players, alumni, and cheerleaders. That's not all, though. You'll get to talk X's and O's with Senior Director of Player Personnel Will McClay, and of course with yours truly, me, Brian Broaddus. You can trust the official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and with us, you'll travel like a pro. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
Back to the break.
Final segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We're doing a Big Picture Tuesday. Got lots of questions flowing at these guys. They're giving me some good answers here. I got one that's going to really stir the pot a little bit. Let's talk about the linebacker position. Should Sean Lee or Joe Thomas be starting over Jalen Smith and or Leighton Vander Esch? Let's start with you, Danny. What are your opinions there?
I think at this point I would start Lee. I would. I think we haven't seen nearly an...
That's the key part.
Which
right?
one?
That is the key part.
Yeah, that sounds good. Now
Look,
tap one on the shoulder. Let's go.
Well, he was starting over Leighton at the beginning of last year anyway.
Yeah. I just
Okay, listen.
you haven't seen enough of them. And Sean
Who's
Lee
been
is
your best linebacker when they're on the field?
probably Sean Lee.
Okay, who's second?
I think 55.
I think it's Leighton.
Okay. Yeah.
I think Leighton's had some moments when it wasn't great, but I think he's had more good moments than Jalen has, personally.
See, this is where the whole, they love to tell you the NFL is like a meritocracy, but it's not always true.
Very true.
And,
Very true. That's not true.
Is Jason Garrett really going to risk whatever comes with benching a defensive captain who's, one of the de facto leaders of the Hot Boys and is kind of one of the public faces of this defense? I don't really buy it.
I will say this, though. The way that they play those guys, they don't necessarily have to bench him. They can just start. They can keep the starters the way they are, and they just start playing Sean Moore.
And they can do that. They've already done it. Like Jalen has gotten taken out for series throughout the season.
Have you seen play counts, like how many plays they're each getting?
I can pull up the packet. I haven't looked at it in the last week or so.
If Jalen Smith got benched, it would set the NFL record for fewest days between press conference and being demoted.
That's another
in the
thing
history
too.
Of the league.
Yeah,
don't you think?
No doubt. It would definitely be. It would be headline news. But right now, when you're on a 3-game skid, I think you're way more concerned about getting wins than all the extra stuff around it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think maybe.
And if you feel like there's a player that is playing well, and a player that's not playing as well, I think that all things are fair game at that point.
Here's another thing. Ezekiel Elliott, great running back, right? What if you put him at wide receiver? Would he be great? No, he's not. He's a running back. So quit trying to make Jalen Smith a defensive tackle and rush him against the guard. That's not what he does. He's a linebacker that needs to. He needs those big boys up front so he can run around. He's not one of them. So I don't think he needs to be playing on the defensive line and trying to rush and all that stuff. I mean, put him in position where he can do. He can sort of rush off the edge a little bit, but
he's gotten 2 sacks this year, right?
Yeah,
2 or 3?
He's got 2. I mean, one of them. I'm not saying he wasn't a big play, but I mean, Kerry Hyder had Bridgewater out, and then he kind of cleaned it up. But him against the defensive tackles, I don't like that play at all. I don't like those little guys up there because that's not where mismatches are. I mean, you can run a 40-yard dash and you can beat a guard all day, but when you're right there in space, they get their hands on him. He can't do anything.
Put him in a place to be successful.
Yeah.
I'd be more in favor, I guess, of more rotation. And put Sean Lee in there, and it's
Jalen is playing 86% of the snaps right now. Leighton's at 90. Sean Lee's at 35. Joe Thomas is at 21.
Yeah, I'm upping that on Sean quite a bit.
Yeah.
Sean played
even it out a little more.
So they played 62 defensive snaps against the Jets. Sean played 37. So
he's up closer to 50.
50%. Yeah. Jalen played 49, which I can't do that math in my head because I'm dumb. But
49 out of what?
49 out of 62. Here, I have a calculator.
That's 72%.
Boom.
I don't
Look
know.
at you.
I have no idea.
It's 79.
Okay.
I was going to say closer to 80, but anyway, go.
Where are you?
I mean, I kind of feel the same way, honestly. And maybe I'm just, I don't know, maybe I'm being an apologist. Like, I'd rather just let them play through it. Like, baseball.
Do you think they're going to play through it?
Yes, I do.
Because what you're saying,
Jerry Jones's thing is it's like if you've seen a guy do it once, you know he can do it.
But
right?
let me ask you,
they didn't forget how to play football.
Well,
you guys have watched him play.
You could say that about Sean.
No,
Lee.
and that's true.
You guys
I don't have a problem
play.
with giving him more snaps. I wouldn't quote unquote bench anybody.
Dave used to say this all the time about linebackers. You have 3 to play 2 spots. Maybe it's 4 to have 2 spots now, but maybe that's what they need to do. They don't just need to call a press conference and just bench the guys, but just rotate it more.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like defensive ends do it. They pay $21 million a year for DeMarcus Lawrence, and he rotates with Kerry Hyder.
No matter the down, down distance doesn't matter. They'll put him out of the game.
Maybe that's what they need to do.
That is you're not gonna bench anybody because of all the ramifications and keeping team morale, but you rotate them more if you want to. And yeah, Sean Lee's a great player. He's played like he's deserving of it. I don't have a problem with that, but I'm not benching people. And on top of that, I don't know, they're good players. And when Mike Trout doesn't have slumps because he's incredible, but if he did,
baseball.
You just keep.
You're just like, just keep getting up there, and you'll work through it. Like that's
what's important mentally.
Yeah. I
And
don't
I
know.
agree with you generally, and I actually think that applies a little more for Leighton, in my opinion. But I'll ask you guys, what have you seen from Jalen? Because I know, Nick, you and I have talked about it in the press box. There are plays he just doesn't look right.
No.
And he looks like he's lumbering out there. The
I
way
don't
he
disagree
runs,
with you.
he is lumbering out there. And so my question becomes, is that just my mind playing tricks on me? Or is this a situation where they're legitimately like, that's who he is and that's who he's going to be? And because of that, it's not that he's getting worse or getting better. It's just that that's who he is. There's certain things he is limited in what he can do.
He wasn't that guy last year, unless which, and Nick has made this point before, like he looks rough in the open field trying to tackle like wide receivers. But again, he's a linebacker. Most linebackers do.
But it's even moving in space. Like you get him downfield where he's having to chase a running back and he's having to do it laterally. He doesn't look right. He doesn't look fluid. And that's the part I'm more concerned about.
He's made some freaky plays moving laterally in the past. Like, again, the Deshaun Watson one and the Alvin Kamara one from last year come to mind.
Have you seen those this year?
I would bet. I know Leighton made one on Kamara this year. That was really impressive. Nothing springs to my mind, but I would bet there's more there if I went back and looked at it. Not that it's.
Can you give me a study, please?
Jalen had 11 tackles in a row, 3 straight games. I mean, that's a good number right there. 11. He had 3 last week though, and that's concerning.
And he knows he had a bad game. That was a bad game for him.
Yeah.
I absolutely, I'm fine putting Sean on the field more, but it doesn't need to be this big ceremonial process of like benching somebody.
Yeah, I mean, we don't sit there and call out, well, sort of. I guess DeMarcus Lawrence. For how they rotate those guys.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting because you don't want to put money involved, but it is sort of, and they made the decision to make this guy way more paid than any of these other defensive ends, but yet Rod Marinelli still plays them the same way. And you would like to think that the guy making $21 million a year over the guy making $600,000 shouldn't be rotating, snaps like that.
All right, real quick, we're going to get a phone call. We got a call from Rob out in Las Vegas. Rob, what up?
Hey guys, just looking at the offense real quick. I think a couple of things. One, I think Zeke now has turned into a grinder and not a home run hitter, and I think that affects this team. I think they're missing Beasley. I think Cobb is not as good as Beasley for what they want, to move the chains. Beasley's got better hands, and I just think he's better at that. I think Witten is.
Careful.
I think they would have been better with Jarwin. He could stretch the field, especially the middle. I like Witten, the old man, but he's just too slow. And defensively, Nick's been talking about this for years. The reason why I felt you need some big, fat linemen is to protect your sports car linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Smith and Van Der Esch are not trucks. They're sports cars. They run sideline to sideline. Teams now realize we'll just run at them. And I don't think they've ever recovered from getting run over against the Rams in the playoffs. They look like boxers who took a beating, and they don't want the contact. The one thing about Sean Lee, I know he gets hurt, but he will attack the hole, and he will come up and hit you, and so will Joe Thomas. They're not going to bench these guys. You know that. You're not going to bench a guy who just paid Jalen Smith. And Van Der Esch is their future. They just won't. But I agree. I would like to see Sean Lee on the field more. But this team doesn't really do that. And then for one more thing, Xavier Woods and Malik Collins, we fall into the trap every preseason. We fall in love with training camp guys. They look so good, and we just have to realize that that's fake football. That's not real football. We've seen it for years, and these guys get on the field, and they're just guys. They're nothing special, and that just hurts this team.
All right, thanks for the call.
The scary part about that call is that I'm not sure he's wrong about anything. That's what's scary. I'm not sure. I don't know about that. I don't like calling Malik Collins just a guy.
I think,
but
Malik Collins is, which I talked about this a week or two ago, is like at training camp, what do you see? Like you see the ability to rush the passer, and he is good at that. He's been good at it this year, in my opinion.
Called it fake football, though.
Well, it is. And you
he,
don't see the run defense aspect of it. You don't see that. And they haven't been good at that. And, Rod Marinelli values these undersized defensive tackles who can get upfield. It hasn't looked great against the run. And I think that's a very good point when it comes to why Leighton and Jalen might not be playing better. It would be great if the defensive tackle they drafted was good enough to get a game jersey. I don't think that makes Tristan Hill a bust, but it's certainly disappointing that a guy you drafted in the top 60 isn't good enough to be playing. It is absolutely disappointing.
And then you take that part, and then you go with the part he said about Xavier Woods kind of being a guy, and then you realize that they took Tristan Hill over a guy, Juan Thornhill, who's playing really well for the Chiefs right now, getting interceptions and making some plays. And then you couple that with the fact that Xavier Woods is just kind of just playing okay.
And you have to go no farther than this last week to see what a great safety can do to change games. And the Cowboys don't have a safety right now that's playing at even any level even close to that.
That guy reminded me of I hate saying this because this guy's Hall of Famer, but he reminded me of Troy Polamalu because every time I watched the Steelers play, if it was a blitz, he was there, right there or right on the line of scrimmage. But then when it was a deep ball, he was back there.
Right. He's everywhere.
He's everywhere. He just guessed right, and instincts allow you to do that. And I thought Jamal Adams was everywhere in that game.
I told you I'd trade for him.
The other part I don't necessarily agree with from that
now
phone
we all would.
How about before the game so you don't take the L?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The other part of the phone call I don't necessarily agree with was the Beasley and Cobb.
Yeah,
I
I don't
like
agree
having
with that
Cobb. I think Cobb is much better for yards after catch. I think it's a little stronger.
Respectfully
that was
disagree.
Really?
I really do. Beasley's a better player.
I honestly don't think he is.
Beasley's a better player for what you're trying to do with Cooper and Gallup now able to kind of stretch a little bit more than you ever had, and they're versatile. I think the move the chains guy is better. Yeah, Cobb can stretch it. Okay, but when? When does that happen?
But there were a lot of games. There were a lot of games over his career. I'm talking about Cole. A lot of games where he didn't show up, couldn't get open. So you tell me, yeah, he's a move the chains guy, but he's not always getting open and making plays. So I still believe that they are about the same player from the standpoint of them being able to get open, catch the ball. I do think that Cobb adds an additional dimension that Beasley doesn't necessarily add from the standpoint of being able to get downfield.
Yes.
And if he needs to, playing outside a little more.
But being a route runner inside, and I think that then playing with Amari Cooper and Gallup, and the fact that they are better route runners than anyone the Cowboys have ever had. We know Terrence Williams and Dez were not the best at route running. So I think you've got two legitimate outside threats at receiver that can do everything. I think Beasley, but then again, the money wasn't
I was just about to say, change it up now and let's ask that question for the money you had to pay Cole versus the money you pay for Cobb.
1 year, $5 million, and then Beasley was making 7 or 8.
And it's on a multi-year deal.
So it wasn't the same from their standpoint.
It's on Cobb. First of all, Cobb wasn't healthy. Cobb has had drops, and him and Dak haven't been able to get on the same page. But more than anything, just Kellen Moore, Scott Linehan, why can't the Cowboys get more than 2 wide receivers and Jason Witten involved in their offense? Why does that seem like such a... And cool, Tavon Austin and Cedric Wilson did it out of necessity, but Tony Pollard is just collecting dust somewhere on the sideline. Tavon's an afterthought until somebody gets hurt. Jarwin, haven't really seen him utilized much outside of going down the seam where it works, by the way. And it's like they don't know how to manufacture touches for anybody other than the obvious 3. So Cobb's role has been disappointing to that point. I don't know how much I put that on Cobb. Scheme some stuff up for him.
Yeah.
Let me say this too about Witten and Jarwin. I don't know if yes, one's way more athletic than the other. I get that. But I don't know right now about the blocking, as far as being on the field as much. I'm not saying Witten has been the best at blocking, and he's had some penalties and things like that too. But I don't think Jarwin's this great blocker either. So I don't know if you just said Jarwin needs to play over Witten. I don't know what happens there. Maybe we need to ask that question.
You're right, but Jimmy Graham's been a terrible blocker his entire career, and he's way on. He's not what he used to be. I get that, but you can figure out ways to use guys' skill sets to their advantages. And don't ask a bad blocker to block. Send him down the seam where he'll catch it 25 yards downfield and set you up on the goal line.
He's still going to take a linebacker or safety with him, so he still has some value, right? He still helps. Yeah.
It's very paint by numbers to me, where it's like we have this situation where we will use this guy, and it's just very
paint by numbers. I like how you put that.
It feels very black and white and boring. And I don't know what else to say.
Average, 3-3.
3-3.
Sounds about right.
Very 3-3.
All right, guys, appreciate you joining us. We're back tomorrow. We're going to get heavy into the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll talk about the Philly offense tomorrow, then the defense on Thursday. Hopefully get you guys ready for this game, let you know what's going to happen. Till then, for Nick Eatman, Dave Hellman, Danny Sarek, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?